Daf Yomi, Tractate Sanhedrin, page 78, A, top of the page, with the words V'i lav kochohu, tezil latachas ela koach kachush hu. Rav Papa answered, and were it not for the force of his action, the stone would go down and not to the side. Rather, although it is a weak force, the force of his action is a partial cause of the damage caused by the stone going to the side. Therefore, he is liable. Tanu Rabbanan, the sages taught, Hikuhu esora b'nei adam be'asara maklos v'mes, bein bevas achas, bein beze achar ze peturin. The sages taught if 10 people struck an individual with 10 sticks, and as a result of the beating he died, whether they beat him simultaneously or whether they beat him one after the other, they are exempt from liability for killing him, as 2 people are not liable for an action that they performed together. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Omer, Bezeh achar zeh, ha'achron chayiv, mipnei shekerav es misaso. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says, if they struck him one after the other, the one who struck him last is liable, because he hastened his death. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, u'shneim mikra echad darshu. Rabbi Yochanan says, and both rabbis, meaning the first Tana and Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, interpreted the same verse in drawing their halakhic conclusion. V'ish ki yakeh kol nefesh adam, Rabbanan savri kol nefesh, ad de'ika kol nefesh, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira savar kol nefesh, kol dehu nefesh. The verse states, and a man who strikes any soul mortally, he shall be put to death. Leviticus 24:17. The rabbis hold that any soul means that one is liable for murder only when there is an entire soul, meaning when the murderer alone is responsible for taking the entire life of the victim. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira holds that any soul means that one is liable for murder for taking any soul, even if the victim had already been beaten and was close to death. Yehuda ben Beseira savar kol nefesh kol dehu nefesh. Right. Omer Rava says, Hakol moidim behares etreifa shu patur, begoyes es bidei shemayim shu chayiv. Lo nechleku ele begoyes es bidei adam. Ma marmad mele etreifa, u'marmad mele begoyes es bidei shemayim. Rava says all concede that in the case of one who kills one who has a wound that will cause him to die within 12 months, he is exempt from liability, as in a certain sense the legal status of the victim is that of a dead person. All concede in a case where one kills an individual dying from an illness caused at the hand of heaven that he is liable, as no other individual took action contributing to his death, and the murderer alone took his remaining soul. They disagree only in the case where one kills an individual dying from injury caused at the hand of a person. One sage, the rabbis, liken this case to the case of Treifa, and therefore rules that the one who kills him is exempt. And one sage, Rabbi Yehuda, likens this case to the case of an individual dying from an illness caused at the hands of heaven, and therefore rules that the one who kills him is liable. Man demad treifo, my time lo mad legoisis, bidei shemayim. The Gemara asks, as for the one who likens this case to the case of a treifel, what is the reason that he does not liken it to the case of an individual dying from an illness caused at the hand of heaven? Hi, David Bemaise. The Gemara answers, in the case of an individual dying from an illness caused at the hand of heaven, no action was performed by a person to kill him, whereas in this case of an individual dying from injury caused at the hand of a person, an action was performed by an individual to kill him. Therefore, it is a case of two people who performed an action together, and they are not liable. Uma dimadme legoisis b'nei shemaim, my time lomadre le treifo mechat simoni. The Gemara asks, and as for the one who likens this case to the case of an individual dying from an illness caused at the hand of heaven, what is the reason that he does not liken it to treifa? The Gemara answers, in the case of treifa, his status is that like that of one of whose organs, his trachea, the esophagus, are cut, who is considered to be slaughtered. The status of this individual dying from injury caused at the hand of a person is not like that of one whose organs, the trachea and the esophagus, are cut, as there is no particular defect. Rather, he is like one suffering from a general frailty, like any frail or elderly individual. Tanakame Rav Sheshes. It was learned before Sheshes. Wow, it's a big daf. Tanakame Rav Sheshes. Tanakame Rav Sheshes. It was learned. A Tana top before a bright before Sheshes. V'ishkiake konev shadam. Navi makas chaveroi. Ve'ein bo kedei lehamis. Uba'achar v'amisor shu chayev. Okay, a Tana taught in a bright before Sheshes. The verse that states, and a man who strikes any soul mortally, he shall be put to death. Leviticus 24:17 serves to include the case of one who strikes another, and it is a blow in which there is not sufficient force to kill. And then another individual comes and kills him. The verse teaches that the second individual is liable. Ein bidei kedei lahamis, pshita ela yesh bo kedei lahamis, uba achar hamiso. Shu chayav ustama kedei Rabbi Yehuda v'mesera. The Gemara challenges, if the first individual struck him with a blow in which there is not sufficient force to kill, this halacha is obvious, as the first did not perform an act of killing at all, and it is only the second who killed him. Rather, amend the Braita to teach. The verse serves to include the case of one who strikes another, and it is a blow in which there is sufficient force to kill, and then another individual comes and kills him. The verse teaches that the second individual is liable, and this unattributed Braita is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, who holds that one who completes the killing of an individual is liable to be executed as a murderer. I think we're going to do part 2 here. It's a bit long.